Not seeing my videos in your subscription feed? Make sure you've clicked the little bell next to the subscribe button to be notified of all my newest uploads.
Hey, what's up people? Pizzal here, and I finally got my hands on the Guzikowski Friday the 13th, 2017 script. Now, this was the screenplay that Platinum Dunes were in pre-production on. They were casting the film based on this screenplay. So by all accounts, this was the screenplay that was going to be made into the Friday the 13th film that was set to be released this October, of course, had it not been axed by Paramount. Now, I have to give a shout out to my buddies Devin and Peter. I'd kind of given up hope on getting my hands on this screenplay, and then today, out of the blue, I had two people send it to me. So thanks to Peter, thanks to Devin for sending me the screenplay. I did a video a couple of weeks ago where I talked about the Nick Antosca Friday the 13th, 2017 screenplay that had been passed over for the Guzikowski screenplay. I'd read the Nick Antosca screenplay. I'd read a breakdown on Bloody Disgusting of the Guzikowski screenplay. I did a video talking about both, and I definitely preferred the Antosca screenplay. And in that video, I said, I think we all dodged a major bullet by having Paramount axe Friday the 13th, 2017 based on the breakdown of Aaron Guzikowski's screenplay from Bloody Disgusting. Now, having read the Aaron Guzikowski screenplay myself, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we absolutely dodged a major bullet by having Paramount axe Friday the 13th, 2017. And having read the Aaron Guzikowski screenplay, there's one word that sums the entire thing up for me, and that's busy. It's a very, very busy screenplay. And if you guys out there have heard anything about this screenplay, you've probably heard the fact that there are no less than 3 killers in this screenplay. It's a 94-page screenplay, roughly 90 minutes, maybe hour and 40 minutes at the very most. 3 different killers. Now, the movie starts out, we're following the screenplay, which I will probably refer to as the movie or the film in this video going forward. I'm talking about the screenplay. The screenplay starts out with Jeff and Sandra, clearly based on Jeff and Sandra from Friday the 13th Part 2. They're walking through the woods. They're flirting. They come upon this big tower in the woods. It's a Forest Rangers tower. They can see out above the forest and spot forest fires, etc. This tower plays a prominent role in this movie. The tower is almost like another character in the story. It's more prominently sort of featured in the screenplay than Crystal Lake itself, this tower. Anyway, they get to the tower, they climb to the tower, they decide to smoke some pot, they're making out, and they're interrupted by someone wearing a sack on their head who kills them both, clearly an homage to Friday the 13th Part 2. We focus in on this person's name tag, which it kind of defeats the purpose of wearing a bag on your head to hide your identity when you keep your name tag on, but whatever. We see that his name tag identifies him as Elias Voorhees, Jason Voorhees' father. And he is the killer for the first act of the movie. And he's killing counselors. I'm not sure why Elias Voorhees is even in this screenplay. His sole purpose seems to be just to pay homage to Friday the 13th Part 2 and have somebody in the movie wearing the tater sack on their head. He somehow knows that Jason's going to be evil. He's known that Jason's going to be evil since Jason was in the womb. As a matter of fact, he's been trying to kill Jason all these years, but is completely unsuccessful. He was even trying to kill Jason in Pamela's womb, which is why Jason's head is deformed. And Pamela even goes on to say later in the script that no matter what Elias would do to him, Jason would just survive. he just kept surviving. But Elias somehow knows that Jason's going to be, he's evil. He just knows it. How he knows it, we have no idea. They don't even begin to try and explain that. He's killing counselors who Jason has developed a fondness for. And that's really his sole purpose in the movie. That's his sole purpose in the movie, in the screenplay. I'm sorry. I have no idea why he's here. He serves no other purpose than to say, yeah, we had somebody in this movie wearing the tater sack, and of course he adds to the body count. From there we meet Pamela Voorhees, who is the cook at Crystal Lake. We meet the two main characters in the film, the Christie sisters, who are counselors, and we meet a young Jason who's wearing a mask on his face. All the other characters, all the other counselors in the movie, or in the screenplay, I'm sorry, they're completely interchangeable. I could care less about any of them. The only characters, aside from Jason, Elias, and Pamela, who stand out are the two Christie sisters. And honestly, I kind of got them confused a time or two while reading through this script. Every other character, and there's a lot of characters in this screenplay, all of them pretty interchangeable. Anyway, Pamela Voorhees is the star of this movie. Pamela Voorhees is the only character in this movie that has some substance. And what Guzikowski does well is, the reason why horror fans and Friday the 13th fans love Pamela Voorhees is, granted, she was insane, but she was a loving and devoted mother to her special needs son who died because of others' negligence. So we can understand, A, why she would go insane, and 2, why she would be vengeful. And the character of Pamela Voorhees in this screenplay, you feel that same way toward her. She has a lot more to do here. When we meet Pamela in the original Friday the 13th, she's insane. She's out of it. We get to see a little bit more stable Pamela Voorhees and her relationship with the young Jason, and I dug that. I thought that was kind of interesting. I enjoyed that. I also kind of enjoyed the fact that we saw Jason, and Jason was portrayed as human. And Jason, it's kind of interesting because he wants to learn how to swim, and he's into having these swimming lessons from the counselors at the camp. And he kind of likes some of the counselors at the camp. There's actually a nice sequence where, it starts out nice at least, where some of the counselors, they come to one of the Christie girls. She's trying to help Jason learn how to swim, and they're like, hey, let's go on a boat, let's go for a little boat ride, and let's hang out. And one of the counselors is like, hey, Jason, come with us. And Jason wants to go. He's not dragged along. He wants to go, because you kind of get the sense that maybe he does want to fit in. All the other, he's ostracized. He's the kid in the mask. He's the weird kid in the mask that nobody wants to spend any time with or be with. And, you know, people are asking him to come on a boat ride with them. And he's like, hey, let's go. And the screenplay does a good job, too, of, he doesn't speak, but the screenplay does a good job of giving us sort of a view into his mind, just simply through how they describe the looks in his eyes. And I thought that was pretty cool. Now, eventually, Jason disappears on this boat ride. They're not paying attention to Jason at one point. They just kind of turn their back on Jason. Jason disappears, and we don't see Jason again for a while. There's this cover-up. The Christie girls' parents, they say, look, you didn't see Jason. Jason just didn't show up for his swimming lesson that morning. He's disappeared. We're just going to assume he's drowned or he's gone off in the woods and he's dead. So we flash forward, and Elias Voorhees is now just a drunk. He's, Jason's dead, so now he can just spend the rest of his life drinking himself into oblivion. Pamela Voorhees is right there. She's pretty crazy at this point, but she just needs that little nudge to go full-blown over the edge, and she gets that nudge. She discovers in the tower, the Forest Ranger tower, she finds Jason's mask. And they don't really describe the mask that he wears in the screenplay. I think they say it's something almost like a surgical kind of mask to hide his face, and he can only see out one eye because his face is lopsided. Anyway, Pamela finds this mask. She assumes it was Elias that killed Jason. She kills Elias. What happened was Elias stumbled upon, or I should say, the kids who were responsible for Jason's death stumbled upon Elias taking care of some bodies from some people he'd killed earlier in the screenplay, so he killed them. He took their stuff, he took it up to the Forest Rangers thing, and Pamela found it. She assumed Elias killed Jason. She kills Elias. She finds this 8mm footage that one of the guys on the boat was shooting this footage, and she discovers that the Christie girls and these counselors were involved in Jason's disappearance, that they were responsible. She goes over the edge. She goes after the camp counselors. She kills a bunch of them. It's basically down between her and the two Christie girls. Pamela gets her head lopped off. Jason shows up, now wearing a goalie mask, as Guzikowski describes it in the screenplay. And Jason goes after the Christie sisters and whoever else is left at the camp. And we get about... We don't get a lot of Jason, as we know Jason in this screenplay. We get a first act where Elias is the killer, a second act where Pam is the killer, and a third act where Jason is Jason doing what Jason does best. And even when I say what Jason does best, none of the kills are very... none of them were really memorable. None of them were really... they just weren't very good. They just weren't very memorable. It was just Jason hacking his way through, interchangeable characters that I could care less about. And then the movie ends with the final girl rowing away on the lake and Jason standing on the shore, just like, bye, we've hit 90 minutes and we're done. And the screenplay closes on Pamela's head in a tree gazing out across Crystal Lake. And by the time Jason finally shows up in this screenplay, I was exhausted. By the third act of this screenplay, I was exhausted from just reading it, because there seemed to be such an attempt to stuff as much stuff as possible into this 94-page screenplay. Again, 3 killers. And Jason is the last one that shows up in the last act and is really seems to be the least featured of the 3. It would not have made a Friday the 13th film that would have satisfied Friday the 13th fans, nor would it have satisfied... And look, everybody knows who Jason is. Everybody knows what Friday the 13th is. You show anybody a hockey mask, they go, that's Jason, that's Friday the 13th. Even somebody with a rudimentary sense of what Friday the 13th is and who Jason is, who would just take their date to this movie because it's a Friday the 13th movie in October and it's a good date movie, even then they're going to be like, what is going on here? Who's the guy with the sack on his head? Why is the mom getting so much screen time? Oh, finally, here's Jason with a hockey mask and it's finally a Friday the 13th movie. Oh, now it's over. What did I just watch? And I can, as a fan of the series, as exhausted as I was just simply reading the script by the time we got to the third act, I would have been completely tuned out of this movie by the time Jason came on screen. And for him to only be on screen for that short period of time it would not have been satisfying in the least. I almost feel like the screenplay, the Aaron Guzikowski screenplay and the Nick Antosca screenplay, they're a microcosm for this entire 5-year period in which Paramount and Platinum Dunes had to make a Friday the 13th movie. Because here they had a script for a Friday the 13th movie. We're making a Friday the 13th movie. Here's a script for a Friday the 13th movie. And they go, nope. Nobody wants to go to a Friday the 13th movie to watch a Friday the 13th movie. Let's get this other script. People want to go to a Friday the 13th movie to watch 3 killers, lots of background, an origin story. They don't want to see just Jason. We want to see Jason like in the last 15 minutes. That's when they want to see Jason in a Friday the 13th movie. I only hope that when the rights go back to Warner Brothers or Sean Cunningham in 2018, that they really look at this 5-year period and they really analyze, how did Platinum Dunes and Paramount screw this up so royally? And the answer is, they didn't want to make a Friday the 13th movie. They didn't want to make... They wanted to make a Friday the 13th movie that wasn't a Friday the 13th movie. They seriously... I mean, that's the only thing that comes to mind. They wanted to make a Friday the 13th movie that was not a Friday the 13th movie. Because the Nick Antosca script, and albeit it's not perfect, that was a Friday the 13th script. They passed that up for 3 killers, backstory, origin story, and we'll have Jason show up. The Jason that we all know and love from Friday the 13th. We'll have him show up in this Friday the 13th movie in the last act, last 15 minutes of the movie. I just don't, I don't get it. I do get this clear as day. We dodged a bullet. We seriously dodged a bullet. If you guys have read the Aaron Guzikowski Friday the 13th, 2017 script, please let me know what you think of it in the comments section below. Am I being too harsh on it? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. If you like this video, please leave it a thumbs up. If you're not following me on social media, those links are in the description. They're also right around here. As always, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Take care, and until next time, peace. Say hello to the internet, Jeremy.
Hello to the internet.